Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Breath, Body, Mind for Stress Relief in Troubled Times, presented in partnership by Breath, Body, Mind and Crow Calls, Inc. Many thanks to our presenters, Dr. Richard Brown and Dr. Patricia Gerbarg, for being with us today and all the participants who have joined in. We would also like to extend a thank you to our educational series sponsor, Chemung Canal Trust Company. Please note this webinar is being recorded to share what we learn with the business community. Dr. Brown and Dr. Gerbarg will share their presentation with you, then follow the times for questions and discussion. Please use the chat to submit any questions during the presentation. And just a reminder, when others are speaking, to please keep your audio on mute to minimize background noise. Attendees are encouraged to have your cameras on for best engagement during today's session. And with that said, I will turn things over to Dr. Gerbarg.
Good morning. Do you want to turn off your screen sharing? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I'm Dr. Gerbarg, and I'm here with Dr. Brown. We are going to be presenting and discussing and showing you some techniques we've used with many people, both in the United States and around the world, to help them deal with the epidemic of stress that we're all experiencing. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Brown.
Okay, I always like to hear what people want for the people you're working with or taking care of, what your needs and desires are, because I find people have more specific things than just, oh, I'd like to feel better or calmer or something like that. So whether it's for yourself, for coworkers, or parents, or children, what are you hoping to get out of what we're going to be talking about today? So you can wave a hand to get called upon. Go ahead.
Sheldridge?
I would like to be able to handle stress at work in a better way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. For yourself alone or for people with you, coworkers with you?
Well, primarily for myself, but I think I could help other people, specifically my immediate coworker.
Great. Other desires?
I agree, second that, how to manage your stress better at work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does anyone not want more energy, more clarity of mind, the ability to get more stuff done, to solve problems more creatively, and have your family and coworkers appreciate you more? Okay, so that's usually what most people like, I find. Whether it's in a hospital or it's in a business or it's in the military, all those things are important. So before Pat, and you can think of me as Dick and Pat, before she gives you a little bit of some of the science, what I'd like to do is just run through a very short practice. We modify what we teach for different ages and purposes, but I want to give you an idea of what we find works in a lot of grade schools, because the children in America are extremely stressed right now, along with their parents, of course, but the children often have less ability to cope. So I'm going to be standing up. And if you can stand up where you are, it'll be a little better. You could do all this sitting down, but it'll work a little better sitting. And I'm wearing my Chemung County Breathe and Heal shirt, which Martha and Bill developed. And Martha and Bill really took our techniques and brought them to children before any other group did. And we've learned so much from them. Okay, so what we're going to start with doing is a very simple way. Children call this ragdoll, and we just shake, kind of using our upper legs to go up and down. So you notice my arms are very relaxed. I'm using no muscles in the arms. They're shaking because my body's going up and down. My upper legs are moving me up and down. And this can be done very gently. Children often do it pretty vigorously. Just kind of gently shaking. Now, people can do this in a chair. I work with a lot of veterans in wheelchairs, and then they just shake their hands really fast. And if you're standing, you can also, I'm going to slightly put my camera down a little bit so you can see what's going on here. I'm going like this. Okay, let's do it for a few seconds. Keep going. And then just come to stillness. Close your eyes a moment, or partway close your eyes if that's more comfortable for you. And feel what's happening in your body. The sensations in your hands, your chest, your torso, the legs. Great. And opening our eyes. So one thing that happens with stress is there's not only fear, there's often anger. And often we're more irritable and disconnected from people. And something that can help to release that stress is what we call ha breath. And this is especially good for kids, but it's good for adults too. So I'm going to ask you to pretend you're 5 years old on the playground, and you can yell as loud as you want, and even your mother can't tell you to be quiet. And there are different ways to do it, but we'll do it a basic way where I'm turning sideways for a reason. Breathing in, the elbows go back and palms come up. And then we go, ha! Like you're shaking water off your fingers. Now notice I did not straighten my elbows. There's a bend here. So that's what I want you to see from the side. So let's do it. Breathing in, elbows go back. Ha! And breathing in. Ha! Ha! Breath in. Ha! 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 Two more. Ha! Ha! And then relax once more. Just let your arms hang. And closing your eyes all the way if possible, part way if that's more comfortable for you. Feel what's happening in your body. Where has the energy changed most? And you might feel that by the tingling sensation or a slight change in temperature, whether cooler or warmer. And what kind of thoughts are you having? And how quiet or active is your breath? And opening our eyes. So it turns out we breathe, according to medical textbooks, about 15 to 20 breaths per minute. And they tend to be shallow and up in the top of our chest. And that not only makes it hard to deliver optimal amounts of oxygen, but it creates stress in your system, just breathing in that way. It's a reaction to stress. And it turns out when we slow the breath down to the right amount for someone of average height, that everything measurable in several different labs around the world becomes optimal. Any system you can measure is working a lot better, and it lasts for a long time after you do some of this breathing. And the easiest way to learn it is pacing it with movement first, and then we'll sit or lie down to practice it a little more in a focused way. So with your feet about hip shoulder width, we're going to make some big circles like this. So make sure you have a little space where you are. You could be sitting, but it's nice to stand because we'll sit for a while. And we're going to do a slow breath, okay? So just follow my lead. Breathing in as the hands come up. Breathing in, palms flip over toward the sky. And then breath out, coming down, coming down. And breath in, coming up, 2, 3, 4, and breath out. 2, 3, 4. You all look great. Just stay with me. Breath in, coming up. 2, 3, 4. Breath out. 2, 3, 4. Breath in. 2, 3, 4. Breath out. 2, 3, 4. Very slow. Breath in. 2, 3, 4. Good. Breath out. 2, 3, 4. Breath in. Feel your chest filling with air. And breath out. 2, 3, 4. Imagine, breath in, the sun and the planets and the stars are drawing your arms up. Feel them pulling your arms up. And as the breath leaves your body now, imagine the earth is drawing your arms down. Breath in, imagine the sun just drawing your arms up. And the earth drawing your arms down. Again, breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. And relax, closing your eyes once again. Observe the sensations in your body. You may feel the change more in your fingers and hands and arms and chest. And become aware of your thoughts, whether positive or negative. How have they changed? And then become aware of your breath. What rhythm does your breath want to be in? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it heavy? Is it light? And opening our eyes. So let's sit or lie down. You may not be in a comfortable place to lie down, but it's really nice to do this lying down, especially when you're learning, because essentially with stress, we shut off our soothing, healing, recharging system that also helps us feel other people's feelings and be connected. So we're going to really focus on doing the speed of breathing we were just doing, but just totally taking the attention inward. So let's see. So we're going to be breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. If your nose is stuffed, if you can do in through the nose and out through the mouth. If you got to do in and out through the mouth, that's okay. But we're working on really healing stuff inside and calming everything down. And the nose breathing enhances that. And it's going to be slow, effortless, continuous breathing. And I'll give you some more directions as we go. So, if possible, closing your eyes all the way, taking your attention inward. If you feel you need to keep your eyes partway open, that's okay. And to pace your breathing, I'm going to be playing some tones. We're going to breathe in as the notes go up and breathe out as the notes go down. And let's make sure it's the right volume. Okay. I think that's the right level. Breath in, your belly gets bigger, gradually, gradually. Breath out, the belly gets smaller. Breath in, continuous, effortless. Breath out, continuous, effortless. And just a little bit of air with each note. When you breathe out, you do not have to squeeze all the air out. When you breathe in, you don't have to suck in as much air as possible. This is really relaxed. little bit at a time. Breath out a little bit at a time. Breath in, the belly gets bigger. Breath out, the belly gets smaller. In as the tones go up. Out as the tones go down. And as we continue to breathe like this, let's relax the muscles consciously. Breath out, relax your jaw, your eyebrows, your face and scalp. In. Breath out, relax your hands, your arms between your shoulder blades. Breath in gently, continuously. Breath out, relax your chest, your stomach, your lower back. Breath in. Breath out, relaxing the legs and feet. Breath in. Breath out. Notice how your body relaxes more when you breathe out. 100% attention on the breath. Feel the breath moving through your nose and throat. Breath in. Breath out. When your mind wanders, come back to feeling the breath inside you moving. And imagine a smile appears on your face as if by magic. How does that change the quality of your breathing? Whatever thought or memory or sensation comes into your awareness, just let those things go by like clouds in the sky. Keep your attention on the breath moving inside you. Relax. Let your hands and eyes be still. Just feel the breath flowing through you. And know that whatever you feel, whatever comes into awareness, is some old stress getting released. No need to focus on it, no need to resist it, just let it go. Breath in, and breath out. And if the smile has disappeared from your face, can you imagine it reappearing? breath out, relaxing the muscles through your body. Just let go of any areas of tension. I'm going to fade the tones down. And just allow your breath to go in whatever rhythm it wants to have. Observe the sensations in your body. The kind of thoughts you're having, whether positive or negative. And become aware of the qualities of your breath. And let's become aware of our body, the space it occupies. And just imagine as the breath comes into your body, it fills every cell with energy, which it does. But can you imagine as the breath leaves your body now, you're filled with empty space, like a pot that's been polished so it shines again, getting rid of the old stress. Just filled with empty space inside your body. And then when you're ready, you can stretch your arms and legs like a cat awakening from a nap. And we'll give you a little bit of background about all of this, the science behind it, as well as a few of the projects we've done.
Well, I hope that you're all feeling a little bit more relaxed after that. I'm just going to switch my screen share into slide mode so that we can share the slides with you. Okay. Uh-huh. I think we've got it. Whoops, get out of here. No, I don't want you. Okay, we'll just enlarge this. This. Can you all see the slides now? Yes, good, wonderful. So we call our program Breath, Body, Mind, and we've developed this over about 20 years. Going to so I can only take you through a bit of a whirlwind tour of the many things that we've learned and done during that time. Dr. Brown is my husband, and we're both psychiatrists who had very traditional training at medical school and practiced for many, many years. For me, 40 years of clinical work. But during the course of that time, we found that breathing practices were extremely helpful for people. And we're going to tell you a little bit about that story. The first thing you need to think about is the fact that breathing and emotion are bidirectional. So we know that when we have a strong emotion, that affects our breathing pattern. Think about what happens when you're anxious or frightened, your breathing speeds up. Well, it turns out you can actually work the system in reverse. So when we deliberately change our breathing pattern, that can have an enormous effect on our emotion states. And so this is what we've been working with all these years. You all know, I'm just going to remind you, the autonomic nervous system is the place where this action is happening. The sympathetic nervous system is the part that gets us ready for fight or flight if we sense danger. That is our mobilization. We're ready to either go after something or run away from something. And the parasympathetic system is the counterbalance. That's the part of the nervous system that calms us down after we've had some kind of a stress or upset. It helps us rest. It actually helps the body heal and restore our energy reserves, and it makes our digestion work properly. That's part of what it does. And these two are in a very fine balance all the time. One thing you should realize about the sympathetic system, we have to have it. You know, if there's some sort of threat or danger or demand, we have to be able to get ready and be active and do what we have to do. And that's what it's designed for. But when we're in that state for too long, what happens is it burns an enormous amount of energy. And two things happen. One is that will cause us to become physically and mentally tired because we burn so much energy and use up our energy reserves. But the other thing that's happening, when we burn so much energy, it generates a lot of free radicals that damage the cells throughout the body and contribute to the progression of most of the diseases of aging that we're all dealing with. Now, the body has a certain capacity to neutralize those free radicals, but when this goes on too long, that's when you start to see cumulative damage, and that's how stress causes more physical problems, more aging problems. The parasympathetic system is the healing, and it also is the anti-inflammatory system. So when we turn this on, we can reduce the inflammation and enable ourselves to heal. The most common imbalance that we have, that we see, is in which the sympathetic system is overactive, especially because we've had one stress after another stress. And now with COVID, everybody's sympathetic drive is way up, okay? You feel it, you know it. It's harder to relax, you're tense. All of these things are signs that this system is overactive. Now, the medicines that we have available for anxiety and depression will help to dampen down the overactivity of the sympathetic system. But it turns out not only is this system overactive, but our parasympathetic systems are underactive. And the medicines have no effect. They're not going to boost this up. So even if you kind of smush down the anxiety, you're still not going to be in balance. The fastest, simplest way to restore the balance is by doing the kind of breathing that Dr. Brown just did with you. And we call that coherent breathing or resonant breathing. And many studies are showing us that when you do this kind of breathing, you reduce the overactivity of the sympathetic system, and you also boost up the activity of the parasympathetic so you can get a truer balance and more healing. And this is just a wiring diagram. You can see here the vagus nerve is a large nerve that comes out of the brainstem and goes all the way through the body, branching out, and it sends tracks to all of the organs inside the body and the glands. It's a very huge system. And it goes in two directions. So some of the pathways carry messages from the brain down to regulate the organs. But about 80% of the fibers in the vagus nerve are carrying messages from the body up to the brain, so that the brain knows every millisecond what's happening everywhere in the body. We're focusing on the respiratory system because the messages from the respiratory system are particularly important, and because it's the only system that we can change at will. We can't change our digestion, we can't change our heart rate, but we can simply, very easily, change the pattern of breathing. And when we do that, we change the pattern of messages that our body is sending to the brain. And that's the key to how these practices are going to help us. And these messages go to the many important brain centers. Some of the messages go right into the limbic system, which regulates our emotions. Some messages go to the hypothalamus that regulates our cortisol release. And messages also go to a central structure called the thalamus that connects with all the areas of the cerebral cortex. So messages are also going to these prefrontal areas where we have our higher level thinking, our judgment, our assessment of danger, our decision making. So basically, all of these functions are affected by the messages from the body. And this is what we call the emotion regulatory circuit. The higher centers, our rational thinking, they're supposed to be able to control and what goes on in the emotion centers. But as you know, that often fails. So when we're anxious, no matter how many times we say, don't worry, there's nothing to worry about, still we're having anxiety coming out of the limbic system. Well, it turns out that when you slow your breathing and change the messages, these messages will quiet the limbic system. And they will also increase the activity and the effectiveness of the higher centers. And the net effect of all this is you get a much better functioning in your emotion self-regulation centers. That's the whole point. And it turns out that the brain listens to the lungs because breathing is the most vital function, and it has to listen to the lungs when we change our pattern of breathing. So we're doing coherent breathing, and we're boosting the parasympathetic activity. Coherent breathing is like a natural breathing, but slower, between 3 and 6 breaths per minute. Dr. Brown had you breathing at about 5 breaths per minute, which is an average and a good place for most adults. And you might have noticed that your inhale was equal in length to your exhale. That's also important to balance the two parts of the system. And it's done very gently, because when we exert a lot of energy, like we go, like with some yoga breathing, that actually activates the sympathetic system, and we're trying to quiet it down. So the more gently we can breathe, the better the result. And this brings about a unique state in which we are calm, but at the same time, we're mentally alert. Okay, usually when you get really calm, you get kind of fuzzy. Being mentally alert means we're better at problem solving. And when we are able to do this breathing, and we teach people to do this, we recommend 20 minutes a day if possible, over a period of maybe 8 weeks or so, then people can also learn to do it with their eyes open. Think about that, because then you can be in any situation, at work, at home, traveling, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can have your eyes open, breathe at 5 breaths per minute, and nobody knows you're doing it. So it's completely private. So you might be in a meeting, dealing with all kinds of stresses and problems and issues. Everybody's going ballistic, and you're just sitting there quietly breathing, perfectly calm, not getting stressed out. My favorite place to do this is waiting in line for something, like at the grocery store. Instead of like, oh my God, you want to tip, and the gal in front of you has a huge basket, and then she pulls out her coupons, right? And you want to scream, right? Or throw something. Well, instead of subjecting yourself to all that stress, you can just stand there quietly breathing at 5 breaths per minute, and you're actually having a therapy session where you're healing your body and you're quieting your mind. It doesn't cost a cent, and nobody knows you're doing it. That's what I love about coherent breathing. Now, of course, we have to adjust the rates when we work with children, especially small children. We have to use a slightly faster breathing rate because of their size. But we find that most children, even at 9 or 10, they can breathe at 5 or 6 breaths per minute because they're so flexible. So when you do coherent breathing, this is how we want you to feel. Of course, Woodstock has to breathe at about 40 breaths per minute because he's so little. So here are some of the effects of coherent breathing and why we're trying to teach this to as many people as possible. First of all, it turns down defensive reactions. By that, we mean it reduces fear and anger. And I think these days, most of us could use a little of that. It also turns on and activates our ability to feel safe, to relate well with other people. It helps us feel connected. You know, there's so much sense of isolation these days. This actually activates our sense of being connected to other people. It enhances feelings of bonding and love. And so it helps us, especially in our current situation. Now we know, how do we learn to regulate our emotions? We learn that early in life from the way we're cared for, obviously, by our caretakers. And especially important for mammals, okay, is that sense of safety, closeness, contact. And then we get co-regulation with our caregivers. And that's the whole foundation for our later ability to regulate our emotions, as well as to be engaged with people, what we call the social engagement system. So here you see these pandas making eye-to-eye contact, very important part of it. But here the koalas, this is a total closeness with stillness. This is very special. This is when co-regulation happens. And the more of this you get when you're an infant or a young child, the better your own self-regulatory systems will develop. Now, when there's too much stress or trauma, it can disrupt these functions. And as a result, we see dysregulation of emotion and even impairment in our ability to think clearly and solve problems. So instead of socially engaging, we want to fight or run away. And this leads to a lot of the problems we're seeing: overreactivity, negative thinking, trouble sleeping, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, and it contributes to many physical conditions: inflammation, GI problems, heart problems, blood pressure, diabetes. And actually, if you do coherent breathing, it lowers your blood pressure. So that's for anyone who's having that as an issue of interest for you. Now, a famous scientist named Steve Porges investigated the whole vagal system and the nervous system, the autonomic system, and he came up with the idea that the way we perceive the environment comes down to, do we feel safe or do we feel that we're not safe? Unfortunately, these days, most of us are not feeling particularly safe. So we want to be in what's called the safety zone, where we do feel safe, where the parasympathetic system is helping to reduce our defensive reactions and optimize our ability to feel engaged with other people. We'll be flexible and adaptive. We'll be able to bond and love and be intimate. We can soothe and heal, and it helps us be able to cooperate with other people, as well as to have more empathy. So for those of you who are in work settings, know how important it is for people to literally be able to cooperate to get work done together. And this is the system that helps us do that. Now, when we feel threatened, our nervous system may shift. So the sympathetic system is running the show to prepare us to get ready to deal with whatever that threat might be. And that's good, we have to. But when we do that, we're going to be more dysregulated emotionally. We'll be having anger, fear, anxiety, and overreacting. Now, so a lot of what we're working on is with this breathing. If you find yourself feeling this way, and there's really no saber-toothed tiger in the room that you have to fight or run away from. It's just maybe stress at work, worrying what people think of you, worrying your boss is going to be mad at you, whatever it is that gets you feeling unsafe, somebody won't like you, whatever it is, you want to be able to shift yourself. Whoops, let me go back a second. To shift yourself out of this orange danger zone and back into the green safety zone so that you can calm down. And then whatever it is you're dealing with, you'll be able to deal with it from a much better place. Now, the red zone occurs when, if you're in a seriously dangerous situation and you can't escape and you feel that life is threatened, you may default to the older part of the vagal system. And in that situation, you might freeze or be disconnected or dissociate or be numb. Okay, so those of you who work with traumatized individuals or children who've had too much trauma, you might see them go into one of these reactions. So we want to strengthen and be in the safety zone as much as possible, and that's what we use the breathing practices for. Now, oxytocin, you know, is the cuddle hormone. And it turns out that when you do this kind of breathing, it increases oxytocin. So that further enhances our ability to feel close to other people. I'm going to skip through some of this because we don't need all these details. I've put them in so that when you look at the slides later, if you want to, you can go into more of the scientific details. So by voluntarily controlling our breathing, this gives us a portal. We can actually go in and communicate directly with our internal nervous system. And we can use our respiratory system to send the messages we want to send. If we know the right pattern of breathing, we can send these messages that have rapid, widespread effects on how the mind works and our emotions and how we're relating to other people, because this is my special effect. The brain listens to the lungs. That's one of my favorite messages. Okay, and how does the brain listen? Well, one thing that happens is it helps to increase smooth alpha waves, which you can see here. I'm going through rather quickly. Usually the EEG looks like this, but with this kind of breathing, we can get smooth alpha waves. These are just some of the studies we've been able to do and publish. So if you're really interested in more details about our research, we worked with quite a range of people. I'm first going to talk about the World Trade Center attacks, because we find that what our programs do, and it's usually about a 12-hour program that we give over maybe 3 days, 4 hours a day for 3 days. That's our fundamental breath, body, mind program. And we find that we can reduce anxiety even in people with very severe anxiety disorders. We can reduce symptoms of trauma, and we can improve mood even in major depression. And with healthcare providers, especially reducing symptoms of stress and fatigue. Very briefly, this is our study, one of our depression studies at Boston University. And what we were able to show is that in depressed people, if you have them do breathing and yoga practice, the more minutes they do it over a period of weeks, the lower their depression scores. So that's kind of nice. And it also showed, this study showed an increase in a neurotransmitter called GABA over the period of the 12 weeks. And that's important because GABA helps the higher centers of the brain control the lower centers by actually inhibiting overreactivity. So that's another mechanism. There are many different mechanisms involved, but this was a particularly elegant study that we were pleased to be able to do. So we've done a lot of work with people affected by the World Trade Center attacks who were not helped by all the clinics they went to and all the programs. Hundreds of thousands of people still had a lot of psychological and physical symptoms. I don't know if any of you lost people you knew, this horrific disaster. So we worked with a nonprofit offering breath, body, mind programs. And what we found were very significant improvements in anxiety and depression and worry. These were 17 first responders and people who actually escaped from the towers. They were highly traumatized and had all kinds of respiratory issues. And just taking this 2-day program, they immediately began to feel relief. And we saw many of them over the years, and they just got better and better. This was another group of 27, same benefits. And I just want to share with you the story of a woman who came to our program 8 years after the World Trade. So we're still giving these programs after the attacks. The attacks occurred in 2001, because we found that it didn't matter how many years had passed, how long they had been suffering, they still benefited. So she has given me permission to share her story with you. Cholene was one of the first 2 women approved to fly the U-2 spy plane for the US. And afterwards, she was a pilot for United Airlines. She was actually scheduled to be on Flight 93, September 11th, 2001. That was the plane that headed for the Pentagon and was brought down. But her connecting flight was changed, and at the last minute, she wasn't on it. However, when she saw the crash on television and she knew that one of her best friends, one of the pilots, had died, she had tremendous survivor guilt and suddenly felt helpless and angry and emotionally disconnected, which happens with this kind of trauma, from everything. She had been a practicing Christian. She had very close friends. Suddenly, she was living in an emotional void, which can happen to people who experience trauma. So she then wanted to find a way to feel connected back to life. So she did 3 tours of duty in Iraq as a journalist. That didn't help. Then she did 2 years of intense post-Katrina relief work in Mississippi. That didn't help. So then at the age of 40, she thought, well, maybe if I become a doctor, I'll find meaning in life by helping people that way. So she enrolled in a pre-med post-bac program at Columbia University. She's obviously very talented. But after 2 weeks, she realized she couldn't concentrate. And if she couldn't concentrate, she would flunk out. So a friend of hers said, well, there's this Dr. Brown. He gives these programs. Maybe that'll help you concentrate. So in September in 2009, she came to our program, and on the first day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll never forget, she came to me during one of the breaks and she said, Dr. Gerbach, I have to tell you what just happened to me. And this is what she told me. The breathing and the rhythm of the bells were like the tide in the Arabian Gulf. The sound of the tide and the feel of the waves rolling over me were the only things that made me feel connected to life. The breathing was that, and much more powerful, because I was physically and mentally connecting to a larger energy source. I found myself weeping when Dr. Brown said, think of those you love. I came away with a sense of being reunited with my life and loved ones. And for the first time in years, I wanted to be connected to something besides a war or a disaster zone. And after the breathing and during the meditation, I felt connected to the universe and to everyone in it. Now, what we see is when this transformation happens like this, it's permanent. And for her, it was. She went on to become an obstetrician gynecologist, a very happy, active, involved person. We speak to her about once a year. And this was her story. And I think this reflects what I've been saying to you about how these practices can have such widespread, powerful effects, even in a relatively short time. We've also worked with Australian Vietnam veterans disabled due to post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm going to go a little quickly here. These guys had been disabled for 30 years due to PTSD. And Dr. Brown gave them an intense 6-day program because they were so ill, and found that their PTSD scores came way down. This was the control group, a randomized controlled study. And then the control group, when they got the same intervention, had the same great effects. So one of the veterans said, if we'd gotten this when we came back from Vietnam, we wouldn't have lost 30 years of our lives. We've also worked with active duty military in a number of bases. We've done quite a few programs at Fort Drum and other locations. And this was a a whole brigade. They gave us 4 hours with them. This was an ultra short program, but nevertheless, a very large percent of them felt 50 to 100% improved, feeling calmer, less tension, less anger, better mood, clearer mind, more energy, and less pain, because this breathing also reduces pain when you activate the vagus nerve. This was a study we did with people, again, a randomized control study at Cornell Hospital for inflammatory bowel disease, a very severe condition. And I just want to show you quickly, this indicates very significant improvement in basically all of their symptoms that we could measure, both their physical symptoms as well as their stress-related symptoms, their depression and anxiety, and their inflammatory markers went down. So this was a wonderful demonstration of the many things we believe this is doing. This was for healthcare providers after the Gulf Horizon oil spill, very stressed out providers. We worked with 153 of them. And what we found was they initially had very high perceived stress scores. And they got a 3-day program, and 6 weeks later, their scores are normal on perceived stress, and very significant improvements in their feelings of engagement, revitalization, tranquility, and reduced physical exhaustion. Who couldn't use a little bit of that? We have done a lot of programs with children, and Bill and Martha and Sheila, who are here with us today, we're all part of helping develop those. This happens to be a group of children 1 week after the earthquake in Haiti. One of our teachers went down there, and these children were very stressed out. They weren't sleeping. And I'm just going to show you briefly. She's teaching them how to do coherent breathing with movement, which is how we do it with kids. You've got to make it fun. So they're going to be breathing in and breathing out. And it becomes a little, whoops, this is a very sensitive controller here. I'm just going to show you a little bit of this.
Respirez la montée. Nous vers même comme ça monter dans le ciel. Puis nous repousser la descendre. Après ça garder à terre les nappes baisser. Vous montez encore.
Gather up all the stars.
Ok, c'est comme si tu prends toutes les étoiles en l'air et tu descends avec.
Put them on the ground.
Comme si tu mettais à terre.
Gather up all the flowers.
Sans fleurs et puis mettez en l'air. Et là monter, expirer.
Gather up all the
Nous
stars.
prenons les étoiles en l'air. Nous posons à terre.
Gather up all the flowers.
And afterwards, they're very relaxed and drifting off to sleep. These are Sudanese women and children who were actually kidnapped and held captive in North Sudan. They were into forced slavery for many, many years, some of them 5, 10, 15 years. And many of them have been liberated, but this process is still happening. And what you see here is a group of 400 of these former slaves in modern day time. They've walked for a week to cross the border to freedom. And a philanthropist who supports a clinic there flew Dr. Brown over to meet them so that he could give them some breathing practices to begin healing. And here you see him working with them. I don't have time to show you this whole video. If we have time later, perhaps. But what you would see, of course, they're in terrible shape. They're very traumatized and so forth. But they're able to follow him in the breathing practices.
And breathe in. Hold the breath. Breathe out.
Now he's only given 20 minutes. All of this happens in 20 minutes.
Hold the breath. So let's tell them that we're going to do.
And I'm just going to show you what happened at the end of the 20 minutes. So that was quite a change from where they were at the beginning. And he since then, a bunch of the women became teachers. They asked him if they could become breath, body, mind teachers, and he trained them. And so for the past 9 years, they've gone around the countryside to different villages and orphanages, bringing these healing practices to the people there, which is what we wanted, because when the NGOs leave after a mass disaster, the trauma goes on for years and generations. So you need to be able to quickly train people. And our goal was, here are two of the women now teachers, and when they finish doing their breathing, they jump up and sing and dance. This is the Chemung County group who began our program with children and helped us develop it over the years. We're very appreciative. This is a little girl in an after-school program. We use these little stuffed animals. We call them breathing buddies. This is mine. I love Woodstock. And we put them on the child's belly to make it a game. So when they breathe in, their buddy goes up, and when they breathe out, their buddy comes down. And that's one other way to teach them the coherent breathing. Bill and Martha have worked with children with special needs. We find that they respond extremely well to the practices, and we're working with a specialist now. We're actually training the staff of 2 agencies in Ireland who work with special needs and traumatized children there. This is a group of children in one of the worst performing schools in New York City, bordering on Harlem, from just very disrupted homes. They are so unable to regulate their emotions that when they get upset, they just start screaming and run out of the school, and the police have to run after them. So Dr. Brown and one of the teachers went to the school to offer them these programs, and they met with the teachers and taught them some of what you're learning. The very next day, one of the teachers started doing this in her classroom, and the principal heard the noise and took a quick video and sent it to me. So the children are doing Ha breath, which you just learned, and also what they call love hop, when they send love to their friends, and you'll see how much they love doing it. I want to mention that 3 months later, the school told Dr. Brown there were no more runners, because instead of running, the kids do their Ha breath. So you could just see what this was like. Now you can see how much fun they're having. They're about to send love to their friends. So it's so simple. This takes maybe 2 minutes, and it enables these kids to get control. I think I'm going to stop here because I do want to leave time for Dr. Brown to show you some more of the practices and for our Q&A session. Okay. Okay. I think he's going to want you to stand up again. I have to do some screen sharing magic here. The song you're about to hear was written for the Vitamin L teen group. And the lyrics are, I want to walk in your shoes. And we're going to do a little tapping to this song, hopefully. Okay. Put that up here.
So pretend you're 6 years old again. We're going to do a little bit of tapping and moving to music. So another way of raising our energy is to use music, and we use a lot of music with kids, but adults like music too. And tapping on different parts of our body helps energy that's constricted by stress to begin to flow again. So just follow me. Can everybody hear that? If you can hear it, thumbs up. And tap aside. And smile. And the other side. And upper chest. And base of the neck. Just let the music move your body. And a shoulder. And we're going to go down the upper side of the arm. And up inside the arm. And over to the other shoulder. And down the upper side of the arm. And up inside the arm. Down to the belly. And we're going to go down the outside of the leg. Outside of the ankle, outside the feet, top of the feet and toes, inside feet and ankles, lower leg, front of the upper leg, and behind, and the sacrum. And the kidney, and back to your side. Other side, upper chest, and give yourself applause. And then just relax, just stand straight, closing your eyes, go inside and feel the sensations in your body. And the kind of thoughts you're having. And the qualities of your breathing. And opening our eyes. So let's do Love Ha. So the kids in Chemung County taught this to Martha and Bill, and we've used it all over the world. So you imagine you're drawing the love in, and you send it out with a much gentler ha. So let's do it. Breath in. Really feel it moving in and out. And you can send it to family. And you can send it all over. We probably should send some to Albany. And Washington, D.C. Any place in the world you want to send it to. Two more. And then relax, closing your eyes. Feel how that's different. What are the changes inside you? And opening our eyes. Okay. Sometimes people really need to calm down when you're really upset, either angry or scared. And there's an ancient breath used throughout Asia. And we find when we teach it to veterans, that's what they teach their buddies immediately. It's the first thing. So we'll do it. If you can be standing, that's okay. If you're sitting, that's fine. And we'll just do it with a breath count. I'm going to leave out, there are things we can do using the arms and the legs, but I just want you to feel what the breath count does. I'm going to lead you with my voice. We're going to breathe in for 4 beats, pause the breath for 4 beats, breathe out for 6, and pause 2. So you may want to sit for this, it's up to you. But this is extremely helpful, and the veterans often use it first for road rage. Of course, standing, if you've ever been to the New York City Department of Motor Vehicles, that's another good place to use it. Okay, so closing your eyes if possible, go inside. And breath in, 2, 3, 4, pause the breath effortlessly, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pause 2, breath in, 2, 3, 4, hold gently, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pause 2, breath in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, 2, breath in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breath out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pause 2, breath in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breath out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pause 2, and relax. Just let your breathing be in whatever rhythm it wants to be in. Observe your thoughts. Is there more space between your thoughts? Are the thoughts quieter? And feel the sensations in your body. And breath in, and breath out naturally. Yeah, we'll do just a little bit more breathing with movement, but you can do this sitting down, just following me. I'm moving back so you can see. We're going to do an ancient Chinese movement called painting the waterfall. It's like you feel your fingers going down, your fingers and palms, feel the waterfall. And as you go up, the back of your hands and fingers feel the waterfall. We're going to breathe in as we go up and breathe out as we go down. So let's do it. Breathe in, coming up, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, breath in, feel the waterfall, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, breath in, 2, 3, 4, breath out, 2, 3, 4, breath in, 2, 3, 4, breath out, 2, 3, 4, once more, breath in, 2, 3, 4, breath out, 2, 3, 4, and relax. Just let your hands relax on your lap in whatever position feels comfortable for you. Once again, observe the changes inside. The sensations in your fingers and hands and arms. throughout your body. Your thoughts. Imagine being in harmony with your thoughts throughout the day. And your feelings. And as you're sitting there, I'm going to put the notes back on. We'll do just a couple minutes of the breathing again, pacing at 5 breaths per minute, which is about what I was pacing you at before with the painting the waterfall.
Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale.
Relaxing your body more and more with each breath out.
Inhale. Exhale.
The belly gets smaller. The belly gets bigger as you breathe in. Belly gets smaller as you breathe out. Closing the eyes all the way if possible. Part way if that feels more comfortable for you. Feeling the breath moving in your nose and throat. Relax your jaw, your eyebrows, your scalp and neck. Breath in. Breath out. Relax your shoulders, your arms, your hands. Relax the muscles between your ribs. Gentle, effortless, continuous breathing. Very relaxed. Relax your belly, your lower back. Relax the legs and feet. And imagine a smile coming onto your face as if by magic. Even if you have to pretend it first, see how it changes the quality of your breathing. Feeling the breath moving in your nose and throat. When your mind wanders, bring it back to awareness of the breath moving inside you. Whatever thought, memory, sensation comes into your awareness, just let it float by like a cloud in the sky. Just let the notes guide your breathing and feel the breath inside you. And just allow your breath to be in whatever rhythm it wants to be in. Can you feel more space between your thoughts? Is it possible to feel the space inside your feelings, whatever the feelings are? Can you feel pulsations in your body? Pulses you ordinarily do not feel. And then you can stretch your arms and legs like a cat awakening from a nap. And gently, gradually, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. It'd be great if you all could turn on your cameras so we can see your faces. And you can see each other's faces. So look at your faces. Do you look any different than when we started? I think you look different. So, any questions?
So you can just wave your hand if you wish, if you have a question or comment.
So no one teaches us how to deal with the negative emotions and stress in our mind, okay? We learn how to brush our teeth and wash our face and take a shower, but no one teaches you how to get the stress out of your brain. And this is really helpful. Elaine?
Is there a place to find the music so that if we want to do it on our own, we can be taking the right amount of breaths?
Sure.
There are two things you can do. I'm going to put in the chat box to everyone a website where you can download those tones for free. They're 5 breath tones. Or you can just get in one of these breath pacing apps. There are many that you can find and set it if you like the sound or the rate or whatever. So I'm going to put it in the box. The other thing is that we do have a book called The Healing Power of the Breath. And that comes with a CD. The first half of the breath teaches practices. The second half of the book tells you how to use it for different aspects of life. And it's also as an ebook, so if you don't have a CD player. But I'll put this in the chat box for you.
And I can also share that information with everyone with a follow-up email. And I'll also include the link to the recording from today's session as well.
Also, if you go on our website, which is the breath-body-mind.com, there are lots of videos there. There's lots of information. There's a page on children. So if you want to hear the lecture again or find out more about working with kids or veterans or whatever, just go to the website. There's a ton of information there. We also have programs, as you know. Martha Benedict and her team of companions like Sheila Katz have organized our workshop, which will be March 20th and 21st, for those of you who want to really learn how to do the practices. And I think there'll be information on your website as well. Martha, would you like to say a few words about what you have in store?
Sure, I'd be happy to, especially for our wonderful Chemung County crew that's joined us. Thank you, everybody, for coming in.
Does everybody know who Martha is? Do you want to give like a little capsule, or some of you may or may not know her? Please go ahead. She's one of our favorites.
Oh, thank you, Pat. Sheila, Bill, and I have worked with Brian Hart for 9 years with Dr. Brown and Dr. Gerbarg in offering conferences through Breath, Body, and Mind. Some of you know me from the school district. Some of you know me from working with Southside Community Center. Currently, we have a group that offers wellness seminars, and our website is crowcallschickadeecircle.com. We are, and if you'd like to go there, Candace, can you put up the ad we have a conference coming up the 20th and 21st, and there's still room if you'd like to join us. It's an introductory conference for you to, have a deeper practice with Dr. Brown and Dr. Gerbarg. It's a 2-day, and it's also a prerequisite to become a teacher. We're trying to teach as many people as we can, especially in our area and worldwide, to become coaches. So level 1 coaches, after this particular introduction, you can do one-on-one with kids. Kids love it. We worked at Southside Community Center for 3 years with Pam Novello, and we had worked with the kids and they just ate it up. We did, everywhere from 10 weeks to 32 weeks. Sheila and I and a couple other people went, and the kids just fall out. They fall asleep. We worked at Corning Youth Bureau as well. And the 15 to the 18-year-olds passed out on the floor. Their parents walked by and said, "How did you get them to do that? We can't calm them down at home." So it's wonderful techniques. We've got great fun with kids. Sheila has incorporated music with the movements, and we just have a wonderful time. So we truly enjoyed the fact that you were here. We thank the Chamber for taking the time to help promote, because we really need to expand it in Chemung County, especially during these stressful times. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Martha, and thank you, Dr. Gerbarg and Dr. Brown, for your presentation today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in. Lastly, I'll just mention, if there's anyone on who is interested in Chamber membership, you can contact the Chamber at info@chemungchamber.org, or you can give us a call at 607-734-5137. And again, thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you all.
Bye,
Great to
thank
meet you.
Bye, Martha. Bye, Sheila.
Hi, Dr. Brown, Gerbarg. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.